hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls, but the air is deathly still. That is the time when fake nerds are present, practicing their reviews with chilling delight. Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Fake Nerd Cine-Files. I am one of your hosts, your ghost hosts. I am joined by my fellow fake nerds, Brandon T. McClure and Sparkz Witty, as we indulge in our love of films and also haunted mansions.
All right. Well, that's one way to start a haunted mansion review. Guys, yeah, as Ben said, we are talking about the Haunted Mansion, directed by Justin Simien, written by Katie Dippold. This is the new one that just came out recently. All right, so what do we think about this one? Ben, since you did that lovely intro, I'm actually going to have you go last and ask Sparkz, what did you think of this one?
Yes, we're talking about Haunted Mansion, not the Haunted Mansion.
Right, it's the Eddie Murphy one.
I like it. I don't love it, but I like it.
Ben?
I think. Oh, how dare you?
I'm sorry.
I think that we'll get into the specifics, but I think like it kind of just like meets its bar, without it doesn't totally do anything to wow in a way I wish it could have. But I like it.
Ben, what about you?
I really enjoyed it. Walking out of it and having some time to simmer with it, I think my hype level has died down a little bit. But all in all, I would still say it was a fun time at the movie theaters. I was laughing, I was having a good time. It's probably no surprise that the Haunted Mansion is one of my favorite rides at Disneyland. It's like every time I go, I have to go on the Haunted Mansion, or else I feel like I didn't do a good Disneyland trip. And I honestly feel that this film does the ride justice in a very good way. I really like the story. I really like the characters. There are some things that I do have some issues with it. There are some criticisms I could say, but all in all, I mean, I wouldn't say Disney nailed it. It's not like you come out of Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl nailed it, but it's definitely a good time. It is definitely more to me. I mean, I've only seen the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion once, and I did not like it. Whereas this one's like, nah, this one feels scary. I would say it's a decent Disney-ish horror flick.
I think that when you're doing Haunted Mansion, they were kind of stuck in a place where, because we've heard about a Haunted Mansion remake since Del Toro and Jon Favreau were working at Disney to do a Kingdom Keepers movie and a Haunted Mansion movie. So this is the evolution of that from a long time ago. And if you can't do a Haunted Mansion as a straight horror film, I think probably you shouldn't do it. That said, I actually really liked this. I had a really good time with it. I think the emotional core of the film is solid. I really like Lakeith Stanfield a lot. There's things that don't quite work with the film, but ultimately I had a really great time with this one. I was really surprised.
I'm gonna rebuttal to that just a little bit, which is that I don't think Haunted Mansion should be a straight horror movie. It's not built that way. There's a spoopiness to it.
Yeah.
Right? Like part of it is the like, ooh, the fun of the haunted. Like there can be your ideal like place you want to end up in is something like, honestly, and I don't think that this movie totally misses this mark, is Casper.
Sure. Sure.
And I think that this is a lot like Casper or even Ghostbusters. Although I think Ghostbusters is maybe erring a little more towards comedy than I would with Haunted Mansion.
Mhm.
But you kind of want to ride that line. I don't
Mhm.
think straight horror is the way to go. I'll come up with a better
I
comp
think
at some point.
when I mean to do a straight horror, I really only mean in the sense that the Eddie Murphy film exists, and to do something more on the side of comedy would be to kind of do something that's already been done before. And so, for me, I kind of feel like if you're going to try the Haunted Mansion again, you'd want to do something you haven't already tried, and that would be the straight horror film.
I get you. I get you. Um, that would never happen with Disney.
No,
Um,
100%.
you know what? Honestly, the correct comp is probably Pirates, and in more ways than one. Like it's a good park ride turned into a film, obviously,
Yeah.
but also parts of Pirates are kind of scary,
Oh yeah.
and parts of Pirates are very fun. And that's about the same energy you should have for Haunted Mansion. Like my only I know what you're saying because like the Eddie Murphy one exists, but like nobody cares. There's you're almost like almost two whole generations of didn't watch it, don't give a shit.
Sure.
And or they did and they forgot it. It's not necessarily associated anymore with Haunted Mansion, so I don't think you're running up against it as much. So I think swinging that pendulum all the way to like if they wanted to, if they'd gone straight horror, I also don't think that would have totally worked.
Right.
And I think that would have been a miscorrection. And I don't think that's what Del Toro would have done either. I think he would have made it scarier than this. But I also think he would have kept a lot of the light and fun parts of it too, because that is part of what's built into the attraction. And because you brought up the Del Toro thing, that's why I wanted to say like it. I'm not really comparing this to the Eddie Murphy one because nobody expected it to come below that.
Right.
But I am comparing it to a movie that doesn't exist, which is the Del Toro Haunted Mansion that we didn't get, which is very much like, yeah, this is fine. I know what we didn't get would have been better,
Right.
and that's kind of where I come away is I'm like, yeah, this is good enough, I guess. Like, cool. Here's a Haunted Mansion movie. I had a fun time. This is it. I really would have liked Del Toro's, where I feel like we would have held it up against Pirates as the first Pirates as this might be one of Disney's best live action movies. Like
Hmm.
it's a little bit like, but I know what we could have had, and this is what we
Yeah.
got. And
I, if I may, real quick, Sparks, I feel that
yeah,
after the success, like this surprise success of the very first Pirates film, I don't want to say Disney backed themselves into a corner, but they caught lightning in a bottle with that first Pirates film because I will never
They've never been able to replicate what happened with
no,
Pirates.
I will never forget hearing that they were making a Pirates of the Caribbean film, and my first thought was, "This movie's going to be terrible. Why are you making a movie about a theme park ride?" And then, of course, I go see Curse of Black Pearl. My entire family walked out of that theater absolutely in love with the film. Like we wanted to go to Disneyland just to go on Pirates and just experience it because of how much we loved it. And of course, Haunted Mansion was like the next step. But ever since Curse of Black Pearl, Disney's never been able to capture that lightning, that special sauce, whatever they had with it. And they've tried, but I mean, I even with this film, it just misses the mark a little bit. It doesn't miss the mark completely like other films like Pirates 5. Um, but yeah, I do
how dare
definitely
you?
agree with I know.
How
I
dare you
do
remind us that the fifth one exists?
I'm sorry, boys, it exists. Um, but I do agree with Sparks that I know the Del Toro one would have been leagues better, and I'm still salty that we never got it.
Before you go, Brandon, just real quick, I think it's worth noting that like even when they were making that first Pirates, people who were making that movie didn't think it was going to be good.
Yeah.
So like it truly shows how much they have no idea how to replicate that because
Yeah.
they didn't even know what they were doing at the time was worth paying attention to.
And then it comes out and everyone loves it, and I'm pretty sure everyone who directed, like the directors, the actors, the writers, even Jerry Bruckheimer himself, were like, "Oh shit, we actually did something great."
No.
But
Crap.
you can't even say it's like Bruckheimer because he also produced the Haunted Mansion with Eddie
Oh yeah.
Murphy. So like it the whatever secret sauce they had for that first Pirates was it's just not possible to replicate. And so like I'm not even asking them to do that because like that's clearly lightning in a bottle. You're never going to hit that again.
Right.
So I kind of look at like everyone else of like, okay, well, is this going to be a good time? Like, I think Jungle Cruise is pretty good. I don't think
Sure.
it's great.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way about this one. Like, I was actually pleasantly surprised, much like I was with Jungle Cruise.
I definitely vibed this more than Jungle Cruise to an extent.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that you want this to be as good as Pirates, right? Because if
Yeah.
there were another original ride associated with Disney that you want to have a Pirates level good film, it's Haunted Mansion in general. Like that's kind of the fan base wants a good Haunted Mansion movie. And like you end up here with clearing the bar, like kind of like Jungle Cruise, where it's like, yeah, it's all right. I'm not gonna think about it a lot. This one will probably get more watches out of me just because I like adding things into a spooky rotation. So I love having during Halloween time ish, that you can swing between like truly mess you up horror and things like this. So it'll probably end up in those rotations once in a while because I did enjoy it. But I wish it was something where I was like, no, this is a must every year. Haunted Mansion.
Right.
And it doesn't end up in that space. Go ahead, Brandon.
But we can all agree it's better than the last one.
Oh, God,
yeah. Here's the thing. I will say this, and I'll get this across real quick. The last one's not a good movie.
Mhm.
However, I will praise the last one for trying to create a story that wasn't so beholden to the ride.
Oh, sure.
Which I think this one is very beholden to the ride. And that's not necessarily a detriment, but I do think it's definitely a bolder and harder thing to pull off that the old one went for, and it whiffed it. It whiffed it hard, but I at least commend the attempt.
Yeah.
Whereas this one...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, this one very slavishly stays within a lot of the confines of the story of Haunted Mansion without adding too much new to it. Like you think this is again, let's do the Pirates comp, like Curse of the Black Pearl. There's a lot of Pirates references, but there was a lot of originality that came to make that pop. And the previous Haunted Mansion film, they tried, and that's difficult. They failed, but this one, part of what makes me not like, woo, is that like there is an amount of you kind of feel like you're just going through a lot of the beats of the ride. Having to get to a story beat like, well, we got to get to the Madame Leota room. We got to get to the ghosts dancing in the ballroom. We got to get to the, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You feel like you have to be led to these beats.
You got to get to Constance's attic where all the heads of her husband are.
Right.
Or
and like,
husbands are.
And like, there's a way to work those in organically, but the structure of the film feels like I can feel you needing me to take me through the bits of the ride. And I do wish a little bit more new and unexpected in the same way that Pirates had come to this.
Sure. I was going to make the same comparison to Pirates that you did. I should mention 14 minutes in now. Full spoilers, by the way.
Oh,
if you're here, you should definitely know we're going to.
I don't think we've spoiled too much of this movie actually so far, but
no, so far we haven't. But like going forward,
so guys, spoiler alert: there's a mansion and it's haunted.
Yeah, I'll kick it off by saying I think the best original idea, right, ish is this idea that once they enter the mansion, they're compelled to come back by the ghosts.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish they did more with it, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but like that's a really great idea. I really love that concept. That endeared me to the movie very fast.
I think there's a lot of good comedy out of that. But also a lot of tension. It's kind of your mention of ish, it being an original concept. Ish is very apt because it is kind of bouncing off of the hitchhiker ghost concept from the ride. And I think you talked a little bit about how this kind of slavishly keeps it towards the ride. I kind of really liked how much of the ride was incorporated into this movie. For me, I kind of thought like things like the Hitchhiker's Ghost. So I was like, oh, this is actually a really cool way to do something like that.
Yes, that this is one of the bits where I feel like it's interpreted differently, right? You know,
Yeah.
so it's not just those three guys. Now,
Mhm.
me saying that, okay, uh, I really like the Hitchhiking Ghost idea. I think it's a really good concept for why you force these people to have to deal with the problem, because they just can't leave the house now.
Yeah.
I mean, they can, but it's miserable. And, and so they're here to figure it out. And I like the way it kind of brings our group together and things like that. Um, I like the references to the ride. I wouldn't necessarily remove any of them. That's not what I mean when I say like, oh, it's slavish to the ride. It's not about the references or the Easter eggs or anything like that. It's about the way that I feel like the plot is moving through, like, well, we got to hit this and we got to hit this, rather than just like working them into a story that's not built around that.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
And that's the vibe that I'm fighting with. Again, like Pirates doing a better job of that kind of idea. Like we're going to end up with the skeleton pirates, but the way we end up with them, you know,
Right.
how does that work into this? You know, we're going to end up with a guy sleeping with pigs, but how we get there?
Yeah, just like I mean, looking back on the original Pirates, there are a few moments where it's like, the the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, of the pointing Leo meme, but they're very organic. Like
Yeah.
the one time, like the first scene that comes to mind with Pirates, and I do apologize because I will be comparing this to Pirates quite a few times, is the jail scene. Like,
Yeah.
where you see all the
Right.
guys try to get the dog, and Jack Sparrow's like, you could do that forever. The dog's never going to move. It's very organic.
Right.
There are some scenes in this. There are some references to the ride which I do feel organic. The stretching hallway scene being one of them. I really love how they did the stretching hallway,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
and even when oh god, what's his name? I have the cast list. Like when
Which
Ben
one?
is Ben with
Lakeith Stanfield.
yeah, Lakeith Stanfield's character. When Ben is trying to, I forgot what he was looking for, but when he goes up to the attic and he discovers Constance, and
He's
she
looking
goes
for
after,
Leota.
yeah, when he's looking for Leota and finds Constance, I feel that is also very organic, because the second he goes up to the attic, I forgot about the attic and the ride, and then once, of course, you see the portraits, I go, oh shit!
Mhm.
It was one of those things where the references to the ride worked, and I just get excited because I'm like, oh yay, here we go, like
I
because I know what's coming.
I also just want to I want to focus more on him a little later, but like I really like Lakeith Stanfield in this movie. Like I really like him in this movie.
I love him in this
Especially
movie.
in that sequence that you're talking about, Ben, which is the in the attic when he has the the match with the lighter. He's like, "Look, I just gonna be real with you. I'm an ally. I get it. Like, maybe these women deserved it. We don't need to do this, man." She shows up in the mirror. I think that's really funny.
Um, I will. I want to finish this Hitchhiking Ghost thing real quick.
Yeah.
I like. I don't. I'm not crazy. I'll rephrase this. I'm not crazy about the actual cameo appearance of the Hitchhiking Ghosts. That
Yeah.
does feel like shoved in to me. I wish instead that, and honestly, it makes the most sense to me, that when Owen Wilson's character says "same thing happened to me," when it's revealed that that's why he brought him here and he's at the house too. Quick cut flashback to all three of them harassing him at his home.
Sure.
And then back to and I'm like, that's a good way to include them. They're not the first Hitchhiking Ghost we see, but they actually have like contextual reason and presence, and it's funny.
Yeah.
But the just like putting them in their exact same position, in the little like, here's we couldn't really fit these guys anywhere, and I'm like, maybe don't include them.
Yeah, it's the dream sequence that we see them in. We also see the groundskeeper.
Yes, but the groundskeeper still shows up at another point.
Yeah, that's true. He shows up at the end of the movie, towards the end of the movie. Which is weird because I don't. The groundskeeper's not a ghost.
No, he isn't. But I mean, like he was alive when we saw him in the ride. He's dead now.
He died eventually.
He did. Everyone dies eventually.
That's true. That's true. You got me there. Um, I want to also mention that one of the things that I really like about this movie, as far as like incorporating elements of the ride in a fun way, is I think making the Hatbox Ghost the villain, this kind of like pervasive ghost that's keeping everyone trapped in this house, was really smart. Because it is it's a new incorporation into the ride because of the technology that was used to create it. It creates this kind of like idea that his inclusion in this mansion was never supposed to be, and he's like keeping them all trapped there. I liked it.
I agree with that. I'll tell you that is they are essentially turning him into the version of the phantom ghost that exists for the French version of the Haunted Mansion.
You're right.
He's purpose wise, not the same character, but purpose wise, he's kind of doing the same thing. And in that vein, we know that he's not keeping all the ghosts there, but he's keeping one spirit there in particular, which is our bride. She's more of a mournful character that we're supposed to connect to in the French version, and they've kind of reinterpreted that into this idea. Also, his original manor that they go to, Ben probably knows this too. That's the Disney World Haunted Mansion.
I thought so.
I caught that.
I was going to ask, because I've only been there once and it was at night and I didn't see it very well. I was going to ask, was that the Disney World Manor?
Sorry, because obviously the original Haunted Mansion, the one in Disneyland, based off of New Orleans mansion, New Orleans, it's classic, it's iconic, but a lot of people love the Disney World one, which is a New England colonial house.
Yes.
And of course, when they go to the Hatbox Ghost's original manor, and I saw that it was the Disney World one, I was like, oh yeah, they were able to incorporate it.
Yeah.
And also, the Winona Ryder character, or the Winona Ryder cameo, was fun to see.
Sure.
How she
yeah, she's pretty
but
fun.
yeah, I totally noticed. Yeah, I did catch that. I was like, yeah, they did incorporate the Disney World, because I will admit, I really, really like the Disney World Haunted Mansion a whole lot. I love ours, but the Disney World Haunted Mansion is really fun.
I'm a garbage person, and I'll say this, but like it's the French one for me now that I've experienced. Guys, it has Vincent Price. Vincent Price is the bad Phantom. Like you're not gonna do better than that.
I probably would say the French version, but we all know what happened to me.
I know. I understand. To be honest with you, if this had done well enough and they wanted to do another, I wouldn't even necessarily want any of the characters to come back. I just want them to do the Phantom Manor story as a separate film, because that has a whole other world they could do of stuff. One thing that I do like those references. I'll just clear that up and put a button on it, that I think that's well incorporated. I do feel like they kind of wanted to pull some ideas from specifically the French attraction with how they wanted to make the Hatbox Ghost land, but I think it works. I think you're right, Brandon. Like this idea of why he's there and what he's doing. Since we're talking about him, I wish he were more practical.
Me too. I appreciate that from the neck down he is.
Yeah,
but I wish that there was more of the face that was.
I would like him so much more in this movie, and I get that I'm basically signing on for more of Jared Leto's performance to come through, but because as it is, I kind of like, did it even need to be him?
It doesn't.
I didn't care.
No.
But if it's practical, I'm thinking back to Ghostbusters. I'm thinking back to things like that, where like a practical matte face of trying to recreate essentially what they're doing with the CGI. I just think it would stick out in the mind better. I think it would be more effective. I think there are moments like where it's in the lantern where that can be like CGI'd up a bit. But when it's just him in some of those final scenes of the film, I'm like, man, just make that practical. It would look so good.
Yeah.
Like it especially for the vibe of what Haunted Mansion is doing. I think that would just, I'd give a full like extra star for a practical Hatbox Ghost, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. I was thinking about this the second time I watched it, because I watched it earlier this week again. I don't understand, frankly, why it's Jared Leto. There's nothing in the voice or the face or a performance that says it's Jared Leto.
Nope,
there's nothing up. There's no Jared Leto in this performance. And like, I'll be perfectly honest, that's not necessarily a negative.
No.
But it is it is weird when you're like, oh, Jared Leto was the Hatbox Ghost. If it doesn't tell you, literally, it could be anybody.
It could just been like some random actor because obviously they modulated the voice for the Hatbox Ghost, but
Mhm.
if his name didn't pop up at the credits, because I completely forgot that Jared Leto was the Hatbox Ghost until his name popped up in the opening credits. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And even as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, are we sure that's him? Because I don't want to praise Jared Leto, but at the same time, it's like he's kind of toning down the Jared Leto-ness, and I'm kind of liking the
I
performance.
I
You
like
know,
the performance of the Hatbox Ghost. I just don't understand why it's Jared Leto.
I
Yeah.
agree. You know who I think could have done it without being modulated? Because part of it is that I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, voice modulation. There are actors out there who could have done a cool voice without
Mhm.
being so modulated. A little bit for like ghostly effect, but not like completely unrecognizable to their voice, right?
Right.
Mhm.
Benedict Cumberbatch
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
would have
Oh, shit.
been a great Hatbox Ghost, I think.
Yeah.
He
He
has
He's got a
would.
good face. He's got a good face for it
yeah,
too.
yeah, like you do the practicality with him, it would be fun, and he's got the right when he wants to do like his deep stuff. He's got a good creepy voice for the Haunted Mansion, I think.
Not only that, sorry to
Hmm?
extrapolate on your point, Sparks. Even when they do the flashback sequence with the Hatbox Ghost, like when he was mortal, Benedict Cumberbatch would have worked perfectly for that part too, where he was like, the kid who was cast out of his family and then became a serial killer.
Hmm.
Sure. I want to say because you bring that up, it's reminding me of a point. I think one of the funniest moments of it, and I hope it's intentional because if it is, it's brilliant. Is when they go to the sketch artist to sketch the Hatbox Ghost, and it'd be great if he had skin. And then smash cut to it worked out, so we know it's Crump, and that's just like that was really funny.
um, I I love the guy who I can't remember his name, but seeing Sloane from Sonic the Hedgehog be the sketch artist, and she's just like a top hat. I absolutely love that
Not
bit.
Sloane from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mm-mm. That's Hassan. This actor is Hassan Minaj. Hassan Minaj is not in Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. His Minaj is Daily Show
Yeah, he was.
and
Then he
other
had his
things like
own. Yeah, he had his own show on Netflix and everything.
yeah.
Oh shit!
Uh,
Now I feel terrible.
That's
no,
okay.
it's good. He's a really funny guy. I really like him, and
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
really
it is Hassan. Oh, I'm an idiot. Wow. Yeah.
when he's doing the
a top hat.
a
A
top
top
hat.
hat. So okay, that does run into one of my things with this movie. And there are other movies that I think pull this off where I'm like, yeah, it's fine. This one it bothers me to an extent, and this could be personal.
Mhm.
Um, it's modern day, but they really try and make you think it's not in a lot
Yeah,
of
they do.
ways. Some of it's costuming choices, some of it's the fact that nobody ever pulls out a cell phone.
Mhm.
um, and I'm like, this is like if you want to do a period piece, we could have just done a period piece. Like you want to do like the mid 90s or whatever, which is kind of what the vibe of it seems like it's aiming for. Then do it. I don't know why are we mixing modern day and like this aesthetic of like the thing about it is that like every time everybody leaves the house, I'm like, does time change when they're stuck at the house? Are they from the 90s and they're entering 2023? And I know
It
like
was
that's a joke, but it's just like they feel so out of place compared to everybody else when they're standing next to them. They go back out into the world to a scene like with Hassan Minaj or something. And they all look like they're dressed just not to the time period. Maybe Lakeith Stanfield kind of gets away with it, but the rest of them not so much.
Rosario Dawson's hair when we first see her, and
Her
I'm like,
whole outfit.
what is what era are you trying
When
to
I
be
saw the
from?
trailers, I was confused.
Yeah.
I just like I had the same issue.
And the
Like
car she drives, I'm like, what were
That's
we
no
doing?
one has a modern day car in this.
Yeah.
It was incredibly weird because like you're thinking to yourself like, is this? And the kid's playing with action figures. Which the kid's weird, and I get it. I get that's not the point of the kid, but like I was just kind of also confused about the time period they were supposed to be in.
So, and it wouldn't bother me too much more than
Oh no, he froze.
Did he freeze?
Oh, who froze? Me
You
freeze?
did.
You
Yeah, you
Me
froze.
freeze.
froze.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it
Okay.
wouldn't bother you. What?
Well, it wouldn't bother me so much if it weren't for one specific detail, which is
Right.
I was just sitting in here talking with my dad. And that implies a cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
And we never see a cell
Yeah.
phone. And I'm like, so are there cell phones or aren't there cell phones? Because you got to ask a question at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point I didn't think about, because like when that moment happens towards the end, I'll just sit in the car and talk to my dad, and Lakeith leaves. I was confused because I was like, "Wait, how are you talking to your dad?"
Mhm.
Okay, so at that point in the film, I'd assumed that everybody knew the dad was dead. I know they hadn't said it, but I thought the context was clear. So
Me
like
too.
he's just being like, "This is chill," and I'm like, "It's not chill." If he's talking to the ghost of his dad, you maybe have to ask a follow-up question. But I was like, I guess the assumption is supposed to be that the kid has a cell phone. But I'm like, what has led you to believe that this kid has a cell phone? Nobody has a cell phone, apparently.
It's a really good point. I didn't think
I
about that at all.
You know, I didn't know until you guys said that no one has a cell phone. I did not catch it because I, honest to God, thought that he said, "Yeah, I was talking to my dad." I thought, "Oh, he just called him, so his parents are separated." Okay.
And like, it's
Yeah.
one of those things where, like, realistically, this plot feels like it's structured to have characters who don't have cell phones.
Oh my
Like,
god.
it's one of those that's built in an older film style where, like, there's this thing where, like, if you go through like every film plot before the 70s, almost every single one, if the invention of cell phones exists, the story doesn't happen. That's very like, and this is one of those where like key things in this story wouldn't happen if they had cell phones.
Sparkz.
Yeah.
There is a cell phone in this movie.
Right, there is one.
It's on Lakeith's camera.
Yeah,
It's an iPhone.
That's the one time. That's the one thing that cued me in that I'm like, so they are modern and they do have it, but they're not using them. And like, this movie just feels like the majority of it wants to be set in a particular time period. And for whatever reason, they were told they can't do that. But they didn't really change the vision.
Yeah, and the place has Wi-Fi because they're using laptops.
Yeah. So it's just weird. It's just one of those weird things where I'm like, why are we fighting the modern age in this movie? Either be a period piece or don't. I just like, and it's not necessarily the absence of technology. Again, it's the costuming. The costuming drives me crazy. I'm like, these are not people in 2023. Rosario Dawson does not dress like this in 2023.
Right. Rosario Dawson is one of my favorite moments in the movie in the beginning when they go into the mansion and the kid runs down after seeing the bride and he's like, the place is haunted, and then through the shenanigans of like the suit of armor goes, it ends up behind the kid, and she's just like, nope, we're leaving, and they just fold.
No, we out. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's I do like the whole, because trope in a horror film is like, oh, it's fine, we'll be okay, it's just an old house, it's crickety, yada yada yada. And then she actually sees the spooky stuff and she goes, nope, we're not, bye, peace, see you later.
And I think to the credit of both performance and writing of the film, I think it's really good how you are pulled into like, why did they go back? Like when Lakeith Stanfield gets there and they're back, and it's like, I gotta tell you, like, it's a real nut house in here. You don't want to come in. And that the unraveling of the ghost thing, and then him being like, now I'm trapped and I can't leave this house, and I can't believe you would do this to me. And she's like, well, I felt pretty bad about it until I realized you were taking $5,000 and taking no pictures. So
I also go ahead, Ben.
No, just like the whole scene where he goes, beep.
Yeah, that was really, and when oh, what's her name? Tiffany Haddish. When she leaves and comes back 2 hours later, and she's like, I know you didn't tell me that you didn't do this on purpose. Why would you do this? And she's like giving Owen Wilson a rinsing.
Yeah, it's really good.
That was really good. Tiffany Haddish is pretty good in this one. I think honestly the cast, our core cast, work really well together.
I think so too. I think it's unfortunate that after about the first half hour, Rosario Dawson just becomes mom, and there isn't a lot more for her to do. She gets a couple good lines, but like as a character, there's not even the stuff developing with her son is more her as a third person perspective because Lakeith Stanfield takes the center stage for it.
Right. That's a good point.
And I think that's a little bit of a bummer. It feels like she should have been a little bit more like if there were characters that should have arcs, like it's the son, her, and Lakeith Stanfield, and everyone else is kind of there for fun.
Yeah.
But she kind of gets sidelined, I think, by the story, which is a little bit of a bummer. But I really like. I think they play with is Owen Wilson a priest or not for a little too long. I think that he should have given up the ghost. Sorry for the pun on that one a little sooner.
when he's like, I'm gonna go pray. I'm gonna go do morning.
There's
prayers.
like three. There's like morning. There's like 3 scenes before he admits that he's not a priest, where like characters are like, is he really a priest? I'm like, I think after 1 or 2, we could have pulled the wool off of that one.
Yeah,
we're stuck with him either way. It's not like they're gonna get rid of him.
Owen Wilson has this kind of air of, I'm just here for to have a good time as an actor in this movie, and I'm here for it. Like, I really think he's having a good time.
Honestly, a lot of them have that vibe. Like Owen Wilson's very committed to it because his character allows him to kind of do that. But I think that is part of what works about the movie is everyone feels like they're there to like enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
And it's part of what makes it fun to watch. I think. Oh, sorry, real quick, Ben. On Owen Wilson, I really like his whole reversal. He really comes together as a character, I think, in the third act. With his whole reversal of like, do you want to be a hero today? And he's like, oh, damn it, you got me with my own line. And then when the leading the Ghost Revolution is a little corny, but like I take it, I accept it.
I'll take it.
I like it. Yeah.
Because it's kind of set up, and sorry, but real quick, it's just kind of set up because like the ghosts are obviously scared of the Hatbox Ghost, and so like him getting to them, it does work in a corny way, and it's because you know what, honestly, if it wasn't Owen Wilson, I don't think you buy it as much.
That's
but because it is Owen Wilson, you're on the
I think if it's not Owen Wilson or Jeff Goldblum, you don't buy it.
Yes, Jeff Goldblum would be another actor I could buy this from. Ben, you had something to say, but
I just wanted to extrapolate about how I feel the cast is having a fun time. One of the standouts for me is Danny DeVito. I absolutely love him in this movie. I think he's just so fun to be around. Like when he's he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the house," and Owen Wilson.
Oh my god, when they're in the Benihana's and he's like, "I want to go," and Owen Wilson's like, "You should come," and it's like, motioning him to come is like, "You really shouldn't go," as he's motioning him to come.
Yeah, just that whole, and then when he finally shows up and he's like, "Yeah, I have heart surgery in a few days," and they're like, "What?"
They're like, you shouldn't be.
You should not come to the house. Yeah,
you should not. Yeah,
I like the smash cut to the hospital where it's just
because the ghost is following him to the hospital, and even when they do find Madame Leoto, and she's like $3, and he goes, "It's highway robbery." It's fun.
Owen Wilson. Well, I want to say because we're talking about some stand-up Danny DeVito's. This is mostly a stand on Lakeith Stanfield. This is mostly a Lakeith Stanfield scene that I really love, but it's when he's talking about his wife who had passed away. And he, he's crying and super emotional, and it's like working for me. And like I'm really with it. And then DeVito has this moment, man, think of the cholesterol on that girl. And everyone just cracks up.
It's a good breaker, for sure. Since you brought that scene up in particular, I have to admit that like I agree with you. I was very much with Lakeith Stanfield. I was like feeling the emotion on this. And then he name dropped Baskin Robbins, and I got immediately like yanked out of it. Like I was like, what? Why? Why was that necessary? And it's, branding. But like it sucked. It sucked to make an actor in the middle of that have to say Baskin Robbins when it made no damn sense to do.
I don't think it pulled me out quite as hard as it probably did you, but I don't disagree with the point. I think it is an interesting name drop to do.
It wasn't an important part of the emotional story. It's just like, okay, what?
Yeah,
damn corporations.
Well, Lakeith Stanfield is the emotional core of this film for me. I think he's so good in this. I think he's good in general. Like, I've loved him in every movie I've seen him in. Small or big parts, like, it doesn't matter. I think he's really good. But I just think there's something about him in this movie that just like I just fell in love with him all over again. When his entire arc, I think just in general, the Keith Stanfield's kind of like casual air about him is really
Mhm.
interesting to me to watch. That's just the kind of character he plays mostly. But when he's doing the emotional scenes, when he's doing kind of the action scenes, when he's running after when he was running away from the Hatbox Ghost, or when he's in the reverse seance,
Sure.
I think all of it, like, he really like commits, and he's really and I really like it. I all of this is just for me to say, like, I really like him in this movie. He makes me cry multiple times in this movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think he's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
I love how I love his character arc. Like the entire like how the story about him, like when he first meets his wife in the opening scene, I think is really cute because obviously you know that this is a special connection
Yes.
to find out, and then later, I mean, you have a feeling that she is gone throughout the film, but then when he finally admits it, that because he was a skeptic, she was a ghost tour, she was a ghost tourist, or not tourist, but she was a tour
Poor
guide
guy.
in New Orleans, and he's an astrophysicist, but they got along so well, and just that entire arc of him still wanting to hold on and still missing his wife and still doing the tours for his wife is very heartbreaking and heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
And I and it yeah, I 100% agree. When he was giving his whole speech about his wife, I was just thinking, is like, man, this is actually a really great plot point for a skeptic turned somewhat believer turned hardcore skeptic again.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I was like, man, they're pulling a somewhat original story, like a la Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like this is original. There's a reason why he comes to the house, and I really like this and how it connects. And of course, later on, the Hatbox Ghost tries to use his wife against him.
Yeah.
Well,
It is
it's
a
really
it is
go ahead, Dennis first.
a deeper, fresher, more personal, amped up version of the dad from Casper. Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Mhm. Oh yeah,
100%. I think what's interesting about what really nails the emotional arc for me, that he has, is when the Hatbox Ghost is being pulled under, and he's like, "Oh, Ben, you could tell her that you could tell her that you love her. She never." And he has the callback, which from Tiffany Haddish's character, that she knows. And
Yeah.
like, I'll be real with you guys, like, the waterworks are coming.
No, it's
yeah,
that is the crescendo of the movie. It's the part you needed.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that really works. I do. I
Hmm.
agree. I think it's very, very much, you know, part of how he wasn't moving on from his grief is because he felt like, and I did think it was a little like forced, the fact that like they didn't have their last conversation was like one of the only times where they ever had a fight,
Mhm.
and that they had one and then she died, and it's like, oh well, that weighs on me now. And I'm like, cool, you like fought like what, 3 times in your entire relationship, and you think she didn't know you loved her because of that one fight? um,
Mhm.
but the point of that being why, you know, he can't move forward with his life, and then accepting that of course she knew, and throwing that back, you can't own my grief kind of deal, is
Yes.
really good. And I think
Yeah.
it hits,
Yeah.
for sure. I want to, because Ben was talking about some of the New Orleans stuff earlier, I did want to touch on like there is an inconsistent vibe about this movie that also gets to me. If you're at all familiar with like culture in New Orleans, and the movie does introduce and flirt with it at the beginning, death is a celebration. That is just part of how they view it, like parades and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of at the beginning of the movie. And I feel like so much of the rest of the movie runs against that idea.
Mhm.
Um, and doesn't play into that notion at all. And I was kind of like, why did we even open with that if that's not a part of the theme of the movie? Um, like you could argue in the bare minimum by the end of the movie, all the ghosts are celebrating while they are dead.
Yeah.
But that's not really the point of the point is that like that opening where you see like them doing a parade for someone who has just passed, they do celebrations of life. That's what they do.
Mhm.
They celebrate the life of a person when they pass. That is very much deep in the culture in New Orleans, is that idea. And it's weird to introduce that and kind of do nothing with it.
Sure, that's a good point.
I think they're just playing with the fact that like we're in New Orleans and this is a thing about death, and I'm like, cool, but like that means something, and the rest of the movie just doesn't play to that theme. And I would have liked it if just a single one of our characters who was at the Haunted Mansion, any one of them, brought that perspective to it. That like when someone passes is an opportunity to celebrate all of who they were.
Could have been Tiffany Haddish's character.
It could have been. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It could have been her. It honestly could have been Owen Wilson. It could have been like they're all New Orleans. The only person it couldn't have been, I think, is Rosario Dawson or Lakeith Stanfield because of what he's going through. Yeah. But it couldn't be Rosario Dawson or the kid because they just moved here. Mm-hmm. But it could have been Owen Wilson, Tiffany Haddish, or Danny DeVito. Any of them could have done it, and I would have accepted it. But the fact that it's not introduced into the story again as any part of the theme, I'm like, why even start with it if you're not doing anything with it? That's a good point. Because it is something that I think it is set in New Orleans. That is part of how they feel about death. It should be a little bit a part of this movie. I kind of wish it was.
Yeah, I get that.
Real quick, also, I want to get out on a note on the kid. Have him be really upset and trying to deal with the death of his dad, or have him be bullied a lot. Not both.
You think so?
I think so. I don't like because the bullying one ultimately just turns into I became cool with my dad having passed, and I guess I also became cool at school.
Yeah.
Like it didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. We didn't need it. Just have it be about him losing it. Like just have him. The far more important one is the fact that he's going through a separate but similar grief parallel to Lakeith Stanfield. Just have that be a part of what he's going through. So it can even be, you could even like, sorry, real quick, you can even just nuance it a little bit better of like the way he behaves and Lakeith Stanfield not totally getting it until he realizes his dad died. And he's like, oh, that's the way that this is all translating out. But having him also be bullied for all this stuff, I was like, you just don't need that. Like, it's not connected.
So my really only issue. Oh, there was a cameo from Ryan in the background.
The ghost of Ryan.
I'm haunted.
I guess that's the only thing, but like the biggest issue I have with it is the kid. I think the kid's arc is just too half-baked. There's not quite a lot. There's not really an emotional crescendo for this kid, and when it's revealed that the Hatbox Ghost is trying to get the kid and not Lakeith Stanfield, that I think that comes out of nowhere.
I agree.
I just kind of wish there was more there to kind of create this through line.
This is part of why I say don't do both of those stories with the kid, because you basically spend the first half of the movie just focusing on this bullying thing, and that's clearly not the important part. So don't do it. Give more time to what you're talking about, Brandon. Absolutely, I agree. And I think the problem is that they wanted to leave it as an audience reveal, and I'm like, don't. Let us know that the kid is dealing with this. Leave it as a Lakeith Stanfield reveal. He doesn't know until the point in the movie that he finds out. But we should know ahead of time. We should know that he's having these.
Yeah.
And be afraid because like we're watching Lakeith Stanfield think, I've got this. I'm handling this. I'm going to say no to the Hatbox Ghost. And in our heads, we're like, but he's after the kid. You can just do that. But I think the fact that they held back for the audience reveal is what hurts that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Go ahead, Beth.
No, since we're kind of like talking about more of our negatives, I do want to. There is one glaring negative that I have with this movie is that they just completely forget about Master Gracie. Like 100%. They bring him in. He's a big part of. He's not a big part of the movie, but he's like a very big subplot. And there's just no reconciliation. There's just like no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no closure for him.
He does save he does help Lakeith Stanfield get to the kid and save him, right? Like that's the last time we see him, isn't it?
That is literally the last time.
No, the last time we see him is after that, when he brings Rosario Dawson to Lakeith, when he connects Rosario Dawson, the kid, and Lakeith Stanfield in the mansion.
Thank you. Okay, but to Ben's point, I agree. I think, kind of to Brandon's point earlier with Lakeith Stanfield, the fact that he says she knows and pushes him in. I wish the movie cared enough about Master Gracie to show him watching Lakeith Stanfield do that. And he has acceptance because the whole thing is he's never going to see his wife here. She moved on. He needs to move on. I agree with Ben. Like, all the rest of the spirits in the Haunted Mansion can hang out. Master Gracie should have gotten to move on at the end of this movie. That is part of the whole point. Like, why is the Hatbox Ghost there? Because Master Gracie kept reaching out into the beyond trying to find his wife and failing because she is not there.
Yeah, I would say
real quickly, I like the ghost designs.
Yeah, they're good.
No, yeah. Ghost designs are nice, but that is just like one glaring thing, because obviously, like with the story of the ride, because we were talking about earlier how the film is very beholden to the events and the things of the ride, and Master Gracie obviously is the master of the Haunted Mansion. He was the one who owned the house. He is a very large part of the ride. The whole one of the stories is you're going to his funeral at the mansion. And the fact that he gets no resolution, that's the word I was looking for, resolution, is kind of a big oversight and a big plot hole. Is like, or to me, it's a big plot hole. Is like, you are something that leaves me unsatisfied. Now, while all the main characters that I do care about, obviously Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson, the kid, Owen Wilson, Tiffany Haddish, they all have some sort of resolution at the end of the film, and they all come to terms with whatever. Like
Danny DeVito's just happy to be here.
Yeah, he's just happy to be here. He's the exception. But when I left the movie, I was like, but what did Master Gracie ever move on? Did he get some sort of happy ending? Did the guy finally also like come to terms with his own death? Because nothing. He reunites Rosario Dawson with her son, but then literally just like fades away. It's like, but what about him?
No, this is
the reason they're all here.
This is a great point, Ben. Honestly, this is a solid point. And I'm really glad you brought it up because I do think it's a flaw of the film. It's weird to have catharsis for the sea captain ghost, but not Mr. Gracie. Like, that's unusual. There should have been either Master Gracie should have been watching Lakeith Stanfield do that and felt the parallelism and felt that connection and passed on himself, or Lakeith Stanfield talks to him about it after and is like, I'm sure she knows too. She's not here. And you should accept that she knows you loved her and go find her. She's not here. She's in the further beyond. And thus let him move on. I do think that you set up that they are parallels to each other in their grief. So it is weird to not give him his ending story for that. I mean, I agree 100%.
And Sparkz, you said that the sea captain a hitchhiking ghost, has a resolution. He steals a man's boat, but we can't see Gracie fade away to the great beyond with acceptance. Even just like some little interaction, like you said, like between Lakeith Stanfield and Gracie, be like, dude, go. That would have been so much better. That's like, cool. All the loose ends would have been tied up, but this is still just one massive loose end at the end of the movie. I'm just like, but they didn't do that.
Or honestly, even give it to Tiffany Haddish, to be honest with you. Let her help him just the same way she helped Lakeith's character. Just move on. I really good point, Ben. He's absolutely forgotten in the story, and he shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I shouldn't say I really like the music. I like the music. I do like how.
No, I like the music. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I do like how it incorporates the Haunted Mansion theme within the soundtrack. I think it's all played out very well.
I think they find a good way of orchestrating all the different pieces of Haunted Mansion music. The like the main theme, the Grim Grinning Ghosts, it's all interwoven pretty well. I really do like it. I think it's good.
And I also like because the Hatbox Ghost made the villain that's trapped all these ghosts, and the idea that he needs 1,000 ghosts in order to be freed, which is a nice way to incorporate the 1,000 ghost thing from the
999 happy haunts.
And but I also like how it creates this idea that the ghosts will help our heroes when needed. So like when the living room starts stretching, you see the ghosts that are in the paintings are like, get on the thing quickly, climb up. They're helping him. I thought that was cute and clever.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And then I still like the joke that we saw in the second trailer with the ghost that's in the candle and the candle's blowing itself out.
I was about to bring that up too. I love that, but I wish I honestly, like, I don't usually say this, but I'm like, I wish that gag kind of went on a little longer, or they kept that candle ghost around somehow, because it was cute as shit.
Yeah.
It's just
No.
It's like, no, stop it. Like, he's like, no, stop that. Stop. Like, he goes, he's like, ah, crap.
I don't think it's a scary film, and it's not trying to be, but I do think there's actually some solid horror elements that are sprinkled throughout the film, especially in the beginning. Which is the only thing I actually have to say on that. So if anyone wants to say something on that, there's another thing that I do want to say.
Oh, give me a moment. I'm trying to remember if anything stood out to me as like particularly like, ooh, good one.
It's the one particularly. It's in the dream sequence that I point out that I think is pretty good. Where Ben sees his wife and she turns around and she's kind of got that big shit eating grin on her face, and it kind of like and it's kind of like a jump scare. I think that one's pretty effective. Sure,
I agree with that. Yeah, nothing's. It's been a little bit, so nothing's visually coming out to mind. I think I will say, like, in general, I think we landed in that nice space of kind of like the Casper area of you got a fair bit of like, this would scare a kid, but not really getting too spooky. I think we could have gotten a touch spookier. I think, frankly, the Hatbox Ghost being practical would have made him spookier. But a touch spookier, just a little bit scarier, and I think we would have been golden.
I would say it didn't scare me, but I did like the effect. It's when Ben goes back to his home, and he's getting haunted by the sea captain, and then there's that big wall of water where it goes return, and he just gets washed out into the middle of the street. Yes. And he's just like, what the hell? I wouldn't say that wasn't scary, but I would say it's like, okay, that's effective. As if I was in that situation and a giant wave of water just told me to return back to the mansion, I'm like, I'm gone.
I will say that there's at some point when he's doing the actual ghost camera footage stuff, and like a ghost moves. So like he got a picture like they were in one position and then they're much closer. And I thought that was effective, especially like the way they do the particleization. I'm like, this is good, like tense, spooky energy. Like, ooh, where are they?
I do like the particleization of the ghost. I thought that was clever.
Yeah, I thought it was well done. I thought it was just on the right level of interpretation of like, you can see it, but you can't quite see it. And yeah, I thought that was fun.
I like that for the most part, the hitchhiker ghosts are just nuisances. Like when he's in the diner and he pushes the cup over,
and he's just like, yeah, I think that's all the more reason why, like, I could have done like 30 seconds of just like what I'm asking for essentially is the hitchhiker ghosts to be Casper's uncles. Casper just pulling absolute bullshit for 30 seconds on Owen Wilson, and I would have been like golden, love it, brilliant.
Just like moving the bug. It's like, what were you in a past life? A cat?
Yeah.
Speaking of cats, actually.
Yeah, I was going to go here too.
Oh, tater tot.
So Tiffany Haddish has a lot of like, she makes up things that she called them ghost wings, reverse seances, things that seem ridiculous in the moment. But I actually think one of the best moments of the movie is because this cat has been in the movie. We've seen this cat.
Yes.
Who's hanging around the house, and it's just this annoying cat. The fact that it ends up being called Tater Tot, like, really got to me.
Honestly, that was pretty good. It's the way Lakeith Stanfield reacts to the fact that the name is Tater Tot that I'm like, where he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh no. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. Lakeith Stanfield's a star, man. Like, he's a star.
Yeah, I mean, also even before that, when Owen Wilson and Lakeith Stanfield are driving back with the food, and Owen Wilson goes, "Hey, they put a tater tot in my fries," and he's like, "Okay," and he's like, "It's a ghost wing." He's like, "No, it's not.
It's not. That's not what happened."
It's a popper.
he's looking at a bag of jalapeno poppers, and he's like, "Look, tater tots."
It's a ghost wink, and he's like, "Those are my jalapeno poppers."
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
No, the
That was
tater,
pretty fun.
but it's good because that's pretty good because it keeps in your mind like the idea of the ghost wink and the fact that it is like a tater tot reference, and it makes his story about what she liked to eat like land a little better. So you get the tater tot thing again without the stupid Baskin Robbins name drop that pulls you right out of this.
This is the cat's name.
Good emotional bit. Oh my god. Instantly hate it. Like instantly hate the movie. If like the ending of the movie is like, what's your name? Baskin Robbins. It's a ghost wink.
Let's see. I think I don't have much else I want to say about this movie. There's some funny lines. I'll just mention another funny line that I like, which is when when Tiffany Haddish first asks how old the kid is, and he says 9, and she's like, "I'm talking organs on the outside," and Rosario, 9 is young. 9
is young, and she's like, "No, it isn't." Yeah, that's pretty good.
Very good.
Tiffany Haddish is pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought she had some good moments. I wish I liked Jamie Lee Curtis as Madame Leota more.
We haven't talked about her a lot, and that's kind of by design because I also feel the same way.
Like, she feels like stunt casting in a way where I don't think this is her fault. I don't think they execute Madame Leota very well, and I don't really know exactly where the problem is.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I don't really see. I like the end. I kind of like seeing her. She's got this funny moments with her. But
I think it's more important only because of Tiffany Haddish, though. It's not really, you know, like what it means for her character than it is.
I think the only real moment that I like Jamie Lee Curtis that I really like is her flashbacks. Is when she's talking about her flashback sequence, and we see her using. There's a moment that I really liked where she's using the crystal ball to look for the Hatbox Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And it like comes through. I thought that was kind of cool.
For sure. She didn't land as a character in the way I kind of wish she would have. Yeah.
I'll say I don't hate her in this. I mean, I don't hate anyone in this movie. I think everyone does it. Even Jared Leto, I don't hate him. But I will agree that
is he even here?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. But I will agree that I was, because obviously, look, Madame Leota is like a major. She's like, if there was a mascot to the Haunted Mansion, I would put up a debate that Madame Leota is one of the mascots for Haunted Mansion.
She's definitely one. I would say it's probably primarily the the Hitchhiking Ghosts. I would say they're number one. Madame Leota is probably number 2, and then Hatbox Ghost number 3, just because Hatbox Ghost is newer.
Yeah. But I will definitely say that I would say that I would like a little bit more from Jamie Lee Curtis. I don't dislike her in the movie. I think she's fine.
Sure.
But with a big character like Madame Leota, I kind of wish there's like a little more. I don't know. Is gravitas the word, or is gravitas what we want in this movie?
It's so I really like. I'm struggling to tell you what the problem is, Ben. I know there's a problem, and I don't think it's the casting. No. It might be the direction. It might be the writing. It might be a combination of the two. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is a good choice for Madame Leota. Something about the way that she's worked into this movie just doesn't land. Again, like, it's good, it's fine, but it's not great.
It doesn't mesh well, right?
It's almost kind of. This is just me working through what the problem for me could be. It's almost like she, as a character, Madame Leota is less important than the book that she has.
Do you know what I think it might be? Tiffany Haddish has the same kind of Owen Wilson thing when we first get her, which is like, you kind of think she might be full of shit.
Yeah.
And not good at it, right? But she's actually great. And that's fine.
And she's surprised about it when she's talking to the ghost.
But they kind of feel like they do the same thing with Madame Leota.
Yeah,
they play the same vibe of like, well, yes, she's trapped in a crystal ball, but like when she was alive, she was also kind of just a charlatan. And that's the vibe they play, instead of her feeling like she presents this like I am what Tiffany Haddish's character thinks I am. I am very good at this. I've always been very good at this. I commune in a way that, and she doesn't have that presence.
Mm.
It feels like they introduced her with the exact same kind of feeling as Tiffany Haddish's character of like, but are you good at this? Were you good at this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it really is the fact that you don't really need Leota in this movie as much as you need her book. Because Tiffany Haddish can use the book, and in fact, she uses it to do the reverse seance, and she's the one who banishes the Hatbox Ghost. And all of that are things that she could have learned through the book. And so, as a character, you don't really need. For me, I don't really think that you need Leota there outside of the fact that she is just a character that needs to be in this movie.
Yeah, you could have structured it in a way where they find the book first and they try and do something and it actually makes things worse because of like misreading it or the language being too confusing. And then Madame Leota's crystal ball appears. The crystal ball's been there, but she hasn't appeared, and she appears because she's like, you don't know how to read that book. You don't know how to read that. Let me tell you how to read that book.
Yeah, you could have done something like that, and I think that would have helped.
I think they should have committed to just the in general the vibe of like, I'm better at this than you. Let me guide you, as her thrust into the story more from the jump, rather than just like, let me give you some information.
Yeah. Anything else you guys have?
I did think of one thing. Now, the argument could be made that Master Gracie is this certain character from the ride, but there's no, as far as I am aware, there is no ghost host.
Isn't the guy who's lighting the candles in the seance room the ghost host? The butler with the who like possesses the Key Stanfield for a minute.
I know what you're saying, Brandon. I think to Ben's point, like who's the host of the house kind of deal.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that it's Master Gracie because he owns the place and he's like you're his guest, but I don't know because I know we were talking about how
Ben. I've always interpreted Haunted Mansion. We're talking about the ride now. I've always interpreted it that Master Gracie is the ghost host.
Yeah, so did I.
So I would say that it is Master Gracie.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like some random thing, not to try and really like nitpick it and to like and make comparisons from the ride to the film. But like once you go to Haunted Mansion, you hear that opening narration. It's like, that is really cool. Where is that scary opening narration?
To be honest with you, Ben, I think that's one of the better things to leave out of the movie. I think you cross into the territory of like pandering too hard to the ride at that point, because like in the nature of this story, it doesn't make any sense.
No, I agree. It was just something that I was like, well, I don't know. It was just it wasn't nitpick. It was just like something I just thought of.
In some ways, it feels like they set up the Hatbox Ghost to have that vibe, because at the beginning of the movie, we get the like, you'll be back from him and that kind of thing. And if anyone were to do it, it would have to be the Hatbox Ghost, because it's like he's kind of playing with everybody.
Yeah.
But I think any further commitment to it would have been like,
all right. Well, should we rate it? Final thoughts and ratings?
Sure.
Ben, since you spoke first, final thoughts and rating.
I will say 7. It's still a very fun time at the movie theater. It's still a very fun spoopy ride. I would like to watch this again during Halloween time. I think this is a fun Halloween movie to put on if you don't want anything.
Should have come out at the end of
September.
September.
It should have come out during Halloween. Damn it!
Boy, if they knew all the movie delays they were going to end up having, I think it would have. But
I mean,
what a mistake!
The fact that it's like, hey, this movie's coming out, cool, in August. What? Or no, not even August, July.
I was shocked when we looked at our calendar for the year, and this was in the summer. I was like, what are you doing?
Important to note, it was originally in August, and they moved it back further.
Dumb.
I think it was like August, like the middle of August.
Should have been on Halloween. Should have been on Halloween.
I'm not gonna say it should have been on. I mean, it should have been like, honestly, like late September is a good time.
Yeah.
For the like, because like you're gonna have some horror movies come out in October, and you don't really want to run into that crowd, because like that's a harder crowd. But September would have been a good time. Kids are getting into the Halloween spirit by that point.
Oh, you can't be late September would be perfect because that's when all the stores and a lot of Halloween stuff is like popping up and everyone's getting ready for
Yeah.
Halloween. This would have been perfect to have. I think that was like the main criticism that my fiance and I had when we came out of this movie. Was like, hey, that was fun. Wish it came out during Halloween time. That would have been perfect.
And it's one of those things where like I guess like you can say they're banking on because a lot of some horror movies do this too, where like you come out earlier so that when the physical media version drops, it's
Mhm.
close to Halloween and people buy it.
Mhm.
But that hasn't really been their strategy for a while. And I'm like, I don't know, like, did you need to bank on? Because I'm sure it will. I'm sure like the physical media copy of this is probably sometime in late October.
I just
Yeah.
think of Goosebumps. Like
Mm.
what a great Halloween
Oh,
movie. Like
Goosebumps is a good comp for this movie.
that
Now that you mention it,
is.
the first Goosebumps movie like came out in October. I went to see it in October. It was fun time. I saw it on Halloween. Like that. This is that kind of movie. This
Yeah.
is the kind of movie that you're like, I want a good, fun Halloween movie. You
Yeah.
go see Haunted Mansion.
sure.
Yeah. I would definitely put this. I mean, look, I love that Goosebumps movie, but I would definitely agree that the Haunted Mansion Goosebumps, it's like you want something that gives the Halloween vibes, but it's not like it's not like John Carpenter's Halloween where it's absolutely terrifying. It's like, hey, I'm here for a spoopy good time
Sure.
Yeah.
with a little bit of spooky stuff in it. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
overall, going back to my final thoughts, sorry, we had a little bit of a tangent. I would definitely say this movie's a 7. It's a fun time in the movie theater. I There are problems with it, but I would say it's still fun. If you're a fan of Haunted Mansion, you're gonna enjoy this movie. And there are some really good emotional beats. There's that glaring plot hole aside, still fun. I really liked it.
I'll jump off what Ben said to say like I also give it a 7. I think there's a lot of truth in what Ben said just from talking with other people about this movie too. That like your familiarity and appreciation for the Haunted Mansion ride is going to affect how much you like this movie, and that's kind of I think the problem with it. In like summary, is Pirates of the Caribbean doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Saw you like the ride, you've been on the ride, you haven't, doesn't matter. Good movie. And this one, I do think like it changes how much you think it's a good movie, depending how much you're familiar with the ride or associated with it. Um, and I wish that it could stand on its own a little bit more than it's able to. It definitely has some structural issues, some character beats that are a little off, but overall, it's committed to its vibe. It's a good time. It's a spooky good time. Um, the cast really works together, and that helps a lot. The music is very good. The references are solid. Yeah, I hold it kind of in that Casper vein still. I think I like Casper a little bit more. But it's in that arena, and that's not a bad place to be.
I don't like the Haunted Mansion ride. Which is so it's really interesting for me to say that I really like this movie.
Mhm.
I think that this movie really works on an emotional level for me. I think Lakeith is incredible. This is um, not the probably the most I've liked him in, but that's not to say that I've disliked him in anything. He's an actor I quite like. Um, I mean, he was the draw. He was the reason why I wanted to see this movie. I wasn't going for Rosario Dawson. Um, and I really like the added lore with the Hatbox Ghosts and with the idea of the two mansions. I really like the really like the cast. I just really like this. I've got some issues with it, but I honestly think I'm going to I feel like I'm gonna be real with you guys. I feel like I want to give this an 8.5, but I also feel like that's insane. Um,
What's your
so
vibe?
I think I'm gonna settle on 8 and
Okay.
call it at an 8. I think that for me, this was a good time. It's funny. I love the cast. I like the lore. I really enjoyed it. The emotional core of the film works for me. I'm gonna give it an 8.
And I'll again reiterate that like I still, and maybe I won't on a second viewing, but I am still comparing it to like a movie we didn't get.
Sure.
And like knowing that a better Haunted Mansion movie existed in some form, and we'll just never see it. And it's like this is the thing we got to take instead. And I'm like, no, yeah, all right, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
There's a 10 out of 10 Haunted Mansion movie in a different timeline that I want to see.
Yeah, I was about to say something's like, no, I don't want to be that guy, but at the same time, it's like I would have loved that version though.
Well, that's this time. Unfortunately, this timeline is over. We have so that's the Haunted Mansion.
Let Del Toro make the French version, the French theme park.
Yeah, man,
do a movie.
I'd watch it.
This didn't do well. I don't think we'll see another Haunted Mansion movie.
I would like to, before I do my wrap up stuff, like I would like to see Disney focus less on Disneyland rides and more on rides throughout their other theme parks and incorporate things there. And I know there's probably just not an audience for that, or they don't think there's an audience for that here, but I'd like to see that happen.
I think there's enough overlap of like storytelling elements and stuff, because like it's important to remember that like realistically, if you do the Phantom Manor story, you also kind of have to do Big Thunder Mountain, because they're connected in France. Yeah. The two stories are part of the same thing. So you can get your like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad story all up in a spooky ghost story. You could have a 1-2 punch right there if you wanted to.
I was actually, honestly, I was thinking, like, if Disney started making more films based off their attractions, I would like to see a Big Thunder Mountain Western. I think that'd be fun.
Maybe for my next book club, I'll try and do the one of those Disney Kingdoms comics, like the Haunted Mansion is the Secret of the Weird. Anyway, so that's it, guys. That's the Haunted Mansion. Let us know what you thought of the movie. There's comments for that reason. You can find all sorts of shows if you're watching
this movie came out at an inappropriate time. This review is coming out at a pretty inappropriate time, I suspect too. I doubt it's out in October.
I doubt it.
Probably.
Watch this comes out during Christmas.
Yeah.
You're so wide-eyed.
Christmas 2024.
Yeah, right. I'm not convinced the strikes are ending this year. At the time of this recording, and it's still 2023. How is it in 2026? Let me know. All right, guys. So that's if you're watching this, the strikes have passed, and we are releasing this in due time. So please check out our website at fakenerdpodcast.com, where you can find the status for every single one of our shows that we put on this network, and what was impacted by the strikes, and maybe catch up on some of the things that we are putting out that are no longer delayed by the strikes, and maybe go catch up on some of the things that we did during the strikes, such as our basement arcades, our basement arcade pause menus, and our Fake Nerd book clubs, which were releasable during the strikes.
Yes.
So check out some of those things if you haven't already. With that, the website is linked below, as well as our links to our TeePublic and our Patreon. If you'd like to support us financially, we greatly appreciate it. Of course, you can follow us on social media on Fake Nerd Podcast, on all of them, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. FakeNerdGuys@gmail.com if you'd like to get in touch with us personally. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. I also write for AtomicGeekdom.com, KaijuRamaMedia.com, and I think, who knows when this comes out, CBR.com. Ben?
Well, you could find me grim gritting with some ghosts at BenMaga27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads. You could also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine. Go to Nintendo.com. And speaking of spooky stuff, I also play Mary Frankenstein in the Dungeons and Dragons Real Play podcast D in Dark. At the time of this recording, we just finished with our mid-season finale. We're going to be on hiatus, but I don't know when this episode is coming out, so we probably
at the season finale.
Ben,
maybe the season finale. I don't know.
I would be surprised. I would legitimately be surprised if this episode comes out before D and Dark is done for the season.
I think D and Dark won't be done for the season, but you're definitely back on before this comes out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we will be back on before this comes out. But just to give you an idea of when we're recording this,
Sparkz,
you can find me working to find a way out at Sparkz Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
All right, guys. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcast, and until next time you see us, stay fake nerds.
Of course, there's always my way.